Welcome to this month's Next Steps Leadership video. As we gather together virtually, we're thankful that you have taken the time out of your day to be here to take just a little bit of time to become a better leader and to grow a little bit. We brought Heartland Church, Journey Church, and Peel and Holland brought the Global Leadership Summit to this area, to Murray and Paducah, because we want to see our area leaders become better leaders. And we know that when leaders get better, everyone wins. And so the GLS Global Leadership Summit happens every August. And then to continue to invest in our leaders here in the Paducah and Murray area, we do a monthly leadership Next Steps event. And so we thank you for joining us today. I do want to thank our summit partners. Our summit partners that make GLS and our Next Steps events possible are CSI, Strawberry Hills Pharmacy, Peel and Holland, Paducah Bank, Baptist Health Paducah, and our leadership development partner, U.S. Bank. My name's Nate Williams. I'm one of the pastors here at Heartland Church, and we're happy to host this month's leadership event. Today, we have together two educators, been educators for many years. We've got Morgan Morris here, and she is the assistant principal at Lone Oak Middle School. How long have you been there?
6 years. This is my 6th year there.
6 years, been an educator for 13. And Deena, Kendrick is also at Lone Oak. How long have you been at the middle school?
I've been at Lone Oak 8 years.
And been in education for 27.
Yes, that's
a long time. That's a long time. So we're so thankful. Both of you guys are also active in your church, community, and very thankful that both of you are here today. And we're going to jump right in. Today's conversation is around building and keeping team morale. It's been a different year in 2020, and so that kind of changes the conversation about team morale. I think some things that we used to do to build and keep team morale we can no longer do, or safety precautions don't allow that. And so I just want to ask right off, how has COVID changed in the school system in particular, but other areas that you may know? How has it changed how you build and keep team morale?
Well, it's completely changed it. I would say, and I'm sure most schools are like this, but we work hard as a leadership team to always think about what we can do to boost morale. There's tough times during the school year. There's lulls like in January and February. I mean, there's times you kind of know there's stuff going on, you need that. But that all kind of goes out the window when every day is literally a different day. Every scenario is thrown out there. Everything that you usually do can't be done, stuff like that. So I think one of the first things we figured out is to just kind of call it what it is. You leave your frustrations in the office, you meet with your staff, and you don't say, everything's wonderful and great. You say, guys, it's stressful right now.
Yeah.
We're barely keeping our heads above water, but we can do this. I mean, we don't leave it at that. We can do this, but call it what it is, acknowledge what it is. We're all in this, hanging in there,
Sure.
I mean, you got to start there with just some honesty, but we'll get through it together kind of thing.
Right. Definitely acknowledge where you're at and then move forward from there.
Right.
Yeah. Anything you'd add to that, Morgan?
It's a full-time job. We have our leadership team, we have our culture and climate committee, and we're constantly racking our brains trying to figure out what can we do with the staff, what can we do with our students. And the pandemic has really put a damper on things because we have to follow restrictions and protocol. So it's really hard to come up with those ideas for our teachers and for our students this year.
Sure. So how have you guys gotten creative, or what are some things you've done? You feel free to even share things that didn't work as far as building team morale, if you want to, but really what I think we have to be creative is what I'm hearing. We have to first acknowledge the culture, the climate that we're in, and what the reality is, but then it causes us to have to be a little more creative than normal. So how have you guys done that?
I think it's funny, I'm thinking about, we've come to a leadership meeting or a culture and climate meeting, and okay, let's say we're going to talk about this week, let's do something to, get the kids motivated, get the teachers motivated. And we start with an idea, and then it sounds great, we build it up, and then somebody says, oh, we forgot. They can't be 6 feet apart. Okay, so we'll do this to adjust to that. Okay, well then that means we will miss lunch period, and we have to have 6 to get everybody in for lunch. So that will, oh, okay, so let's twist it this way. And I mean, 20 minutes in, we're like, what was the idea?
What are we working on again?
It's so twisted and distorted. Then somebody goes, oh, can we just get them a Coke? I mean,
it's like food is everyone loves food. So it's like we settle for snacks or food, because before the pandemic, we would take the students and the teachers to movies. We would have a bonfire for Halloween. Skating, we went ice skating. We still do this. We would take carts around to the teachers and let them pick out a candy bar and a drink. We've done caramel apples on carts. We've had some ideas that we thought were good that I will let Miss Kendrick share if she would like to. But it's just hard to make everyone happy and please everyone. And so with our culture and climate committee, we've just gone to them and just say, what would the teachers like? What will the students like? Instead of us coming up with instead of this leadership team trying to come up with the ideas, as much as we try not to forget to be in their shoes and how it is to be in their shoes, we're not in their shoes. And so we have to go back to them and just say, what would you like?
Yeah.
What
would make you happy?
And I think what's kind of interesting right now is we are trying to be creative. Okay, we're going to conquer this and still come up with fun ways. And when Morgan went to her culture and climate, some of the things they said were just simple. And a lot said, just acknowledge this is hard. Just acknowledge that we're out of steam. And so we have certain people, there's certain teachers that know they can go to Morgan. There's certain teachers know they come to me, and everybody on the leadership team, and just touching base with those people, acknowledging those things. How you doing? The other day I walked into a group of teachers, and I had a paper to give them all, and I said, hey, before y'all start really talking about me, I'm going to give you one more piece of paper. Keep talking about me, make a joke about it, but acknowledge there's frustration, there's stress, there's this, and I mean, that's all. They're not asking for creative things necessarily. It's just support.
Yeah. And what I was saying is, we think, oh, this is a great idea. This is awesome. On Mondays, we're all students are virtual, so the teachers, we can have meetings and we can talk and plan for the rest of the week. So the leadership team we're going to have this activity where they take pictures. They can still social distance and take pictures. It'll be fun. It'll be a competition. The winning team will get a prize. And we're like, man, that's going to be so much fun. Well, we thought.
It didn't go over good.
So I got to be the one to present this. And I was pumped,
We were excited.
Hey, before you get started today, we've got a really neat activity. We said social distance, but just a minute to get your mind off of all this, So what we're going to do, and I start telling, you're going to go, and there's certain places of the building, you're going to take a certain picture. I could feel the hate. I could feel the tension. I told somebody afterwards, I've never had an entire room full of people hate me all at one time. I mean, it was dead silent. And so by the end I was like, and so then you're gonna get your camera. I feel like the steam just went out of me, and I watched one girl start crying right in front of me. There were people holding their papers up and I looked over, and she's a good friend of mine, and she was going like that, and I was like, what is happening here?
Yeah, what a great story to tell. You never know how things are how people are gonna react, and you guys thought it would have been a hit.
Well, our perspective was, it was all good intentions. Get their mind off of this for a minute. Their perspective was, I have 1,000 things to do, and I don't have time.
Sure.
What happened was, sadly, before it got better, it got worse, because then we were mad. We were like, we're trying to do this, and got our feelings kind of hurt and a little defensive and all that kind of stuff. When it all settled, that teacher, that friend of mine, came and said I was in a funk, and it did help me get out of my funk. And I had to say to her, we were not thinking from your perspective. We had to turn around and go, okay, now that we're looking at it their way, we could see where that was probably a fail or whatever. But
Well, you sort of answered my next question, which would be when it fails, when you try something and it fails, how do you as a leader readjust or, you know, get your mind in the right place to move forward so that you can continue to lead and keep building team morale? How do you do that as a leader?
I'll be honest with you, when that happened, I wanted to be like, forget this. Like, I'm just being vulnerable right now.
Yeah,
I'm like,
sure.
forget this. We are trying to do something fun for our teachers, and they didn't accept it that way. They're complaining, and I'm like, you know, I'm done. But you can't do that as a leader in a school setting, in
Sure.
any business setting.
That's right, yeah.
And when I took this job, and I've said this about every year, probably every month, I told myself I will not forget what it's like to be a teacher. I might forget, but I don't want to forget that feeling of what it's like to be a teacher, because it's important to know what they're going through and the work that we don't experience, because we're in the office. We don't see everything that they're dealing with.
Right.
And so I had to have a little pep talk. The whole leadership team had a little pep talk, and okay, that didn't work. So we gotta remember that they are stressed, and this is any business setting. They're stressed. They might have stuff going on at home. They may have kids sick, you know, they're having to put, now in our setting, they're having to put grades in, they're having to keep up with the virtual students, in-person students. And even though we know that, we don't know how many countless hours that they're putting into it.
That's
so what we have to do is, we gotta take a step back, swallow our pride, and refocus. And that's why in our Culture and Climate Committee, we just ask the teachers,
Yeah.
what would you like?
Yeah.
You know, what would, and it was the small things like Deena said, milkshake, a candy bar, and the little things, like we want to make it big, but they just appreciate the small things, words of encouragement.
Right. And a lot of those things we can still do today in the midst of COVID, in the midst of difficult circumstances where business and retail and life in the office is different. Those things are very much still doable.
you forget how important those things are.
The
They
simple.
seem little, but yeah, it goes a long way.
It's just like when people at the board office, Mr. Carter, Mr. Siklinski, Mr. Boland, I mean, the different ones that come to drop by in our school just to check up on you. Like,
And that means a lot
it means so much.
because it's personal.
Yeah, it's like, okay, well, we need to do that for our own teachers.
Sure.
And so, like Deena said, like, you know, you have those teachers that have their go-to person. But even if you're not their go-to person, just walking down the hall, and if they're planning, hey, how are you going? How's it going?
Yeah.
How are you doing? Are
Sure.
you surviving? Those are the small things you can do that really can
Yeah.
boost morale.
And it's even difficult, I mean, you as leaders, business leaders, no matter where you're leading in the home or different things, I mean, your team, whoever it is that you're trying to lead, you as the leader may not be in a healthy place.
Right.
I mean, and we, this is off script, but let me ask, I mean, so many leaders are living in high anxiety or things are different. How do we manage that in the midst of leading a team, because that affects our ability to lead and keep morale, right? I mean, how do we?
Well, it's funny, we were talking about this today. We have gotten so far into this year in this pandemic and all this kind of stuff that things are changing so quickly. In the spring, we made a plan, and within 8 hours, it was obsolete. Within 12 hours, that one was obsolete. I mean, we were on plan 4 before we ever even let the kids go. And it has not stopped changing.
Sure.
We had a little reprieve in the summer, and now we're getting ready for another one, you know, and in the months that the few weeks we've been in school. And through that, you start feeling, you come and you say, okay, guys, this is what has to be done today. By the end of the day, you're having to send an email saying, we were completely wrong on all of that, or it's all changed. What you feel is you're completely wrong. And after a while, your staff even starts saying, y'all are changing things all the time, and we're saying we're not changing. And you can easily get sucked into feeling a bit of a failure, feeling we don't have control. Teachers are good at controlling their classroom, their curriculum, and knowing what the kid needs, and those things are out of control for them. And all of a sudden, everybody is feeling like they're not doing their job and doing well, feeling like failures, and what happens, because we're human, we start pointing a finger here and pointing a finger here, and, I mean, you have to really work to say, we've said it twice this week, I have said it, guys, I messed up, I just gotta tell you, this is my first pandemic, I don't know about you, but
Right.
this is the first time I've done this.
That's right.
Let's not forget that we don't have it under control, because life has forced us to not be under control.
That's right.
You know, and it's that constant just saying, I'm sorry to change it again, I'm sorry we messed this up, let's regroup.
And there are times before the pandemic when we made a bad decision. We made some mistakes.
Sure.
And so, not just during the pandemic time, like you have to take a step back and do that as well. Mm-hmm. And what we see is teachers and leadership start pointing fingers, and we all feel like failures. And so it's important that's why it's important to stop by that teacher's room. Mm-hmm. How are you doing? Send a text.
Check in. Yeah.
Check in and
Sure.
and make sure that they're okay.
And
to
I'll
tell them
say
to keep
this,
their head up.
though, we feel that way, but I'm not just saying this because I am an educator, I am at Lone Oak, whatever. I really believe teachers are working harder than they have ever worked in their whole entire lives.
Yeah.
Except every day they don't feel like they are, because they don't feel like they're able. Our teachers right now are worried about our virtual kids, when they get back, let's make sure they're lined up with the kids in person, and the AB kid is lined up with the kid that's all
Right.
virtual,
Right.
we have all these scenarios, and how are we gonna get them all back together and back on track? And they feel like that they're getting behind when they're working harder than they've ever worked,
Sure.
That's
That's probably true. I know that's true in the medical field and
Yes.
and a lot of other businesses, and it's different. You go from the classroom setting in the school building to a business office, or a lot of businesses are still working remote or have gone back and forth between those things, and so the idea as leaders that we must continue to build and keep morale, it's difficult, but some of the things that I've heard from you guys today, just acknowledge the situation, acknowledge the reality, and part of that, when we do fail, acknowledge, hey, okay, this didn't really work out, but here's where we're at, we're going to move forward, and then listening to the people that are on your teams, listening to them and making sure the things you're trying to build morale to build morale are actually things that are going to work, because they've told you this will help. Checking in, personal text message, or dropping by and just say, hey, how are you today? And checking in, those kind of things. And then I think just remembering to keep it simple. I mean, there are simple things that we can do to put smiles on faces and laugh as a team, and all of that is still possible. It can be done whether a team is still remote, virtual from one another, or if they're there in the office. And so it's been great having you guys here. Thanks, Deena and Morgan.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
We're going to continue to invest in our leaders here in Paducah and Murray, and so stay tuned in 2021 for more Next Steps leadership events to come. We'll let you know about those things. And again, when the leader gets better, everybody wins.